2020. Coronavirus or COVID-19 has reached global pandemic scale. But first, let's see about other pandemics that happened during history. Hello and welcome to the Night School, the channel that will pass you the general knowledge that everyone should know. I am Mrs. Mutleva, and today you will learn or be reminded of global pandemics throughout history. While we are all fighting against coronavirus by sitting home and stopping corona from spreading, let's pick for the other pandemics through history. How scary it might sound, the coronavirus now, our ancestors confronted with much more scarier and deadly pandemics. So brace yourself. We will start with the plague of Justinian. Justinian I is often credited as the most influential Byzantine emperor, but in his reign also happened the first well-documented outbreaks of plague. The pandemic is believed that originated from Africa and spread to Europe through infected rats on merchant ships. It reached Constantinople in 541 AD. According to historian Procopius, the victims demonstrated many of the classic symptoms of bubonic plague, including sudden fever and swollen lymph nodes. It is believed to have killed at least 25 million people, but the actual death toll may have been much higher. Much higher for sure. We shall continue with the Black Death. In 1347, a virulent strain of plague invaded Europe from the east, most likely via Italian sailors returning home from Crimea. This Black Death would eventually spend half a decade tearing across the continent. The populations of whole towns were wiped out, and it was said that the living spent most of their time burying the dead in mass graves. Medieval physicians tried to combat the disease using bloodletting, lancing, and other crude techniques, but with little understanding of its cause, most fell back on the belief that it was a divine punishment for their sins. The Black Death finally subsided in the West around 1353, but not before it killed as many as 50 million people, more than half the population of Europe. While the pandemic left much of the continent in disarray, many historians also believe that the labor shortages it caused were a boon to lower-class workers, who saw increased economic and social mobility. Scary. I got some goosebumps all over my body. Let's go with something not that scary as the previous one, and here we start the part that is favorite for the conspiracy theory lovers, or the part that on every 100 years or so, the mankind face some deadly pandemics. The conspiracy starts with the Great Plague of Marseille from 1720, then goes with the first cholera pandemic from 1817, then the Spanish flu from 1918, and today's coronavirus from 2020. However, I think that is a pure coincidence, so let's all do our research before jumping on conclusions. So, the Great Plague of Marseille. On the 25th May 1720, a ship called the Grand Saint Antoine arrived from Sidon in Lebanon, carrying a prized cargo of silk and cotton. There was nothing unusual in this, but the problem was that it had called at Cyprus on the way back, where there had been reports of the plague. Having already been refused port in Livorno, it has now placed in a quarantine bay outside the city docks while the occupants began to die, starting with a Turkish passenger and then spreading to the ship's surgeon and some of the crew. Within days, signs of the plague were appearing in the city, which had a population of 90,000 at the time. Quickly, it took hold, and tough medicine had come a long way from the age of the Black Death in the 1340s. Doctors were just as powerless to stop its progress as they had been then. Over the 2-year period from May 1720, 100,000 were killed, including 50,000 in Marseille. Its population would not recover until 1765. The first cholera pandemic, also known as the first Asiatic cholera pandemic or Asiatic cholera, began near the city of Calcutta and spread throughout Southeast Asia to the Middle East, Eastern Africa, and the Mediterranean coast. At Basra, Iraq, as many as 18,000 people died during a 3-week period in 1821. The pandemic spread through Turkey and reached the threshold of Europe. The disease also spread along trade routes from Arabia to the Eastern African and Mediterranean coasts. Over the next few years, cholera disappeared from most of the world except for its home base around the Bay of Bengal. The total deaths from the epidemic remain unknown. Scholars of particular areas have estimated death tolls. For instance, some estimate that Bangkok might have suffered 30,000 deaths from the disease. In Semarang, Java, 1,225 people died in 11 days in April 1821. Now, we go with the deadliest pandemic that ever happened to the world, the Spanish flu. The Spanish flu pandemic of 1918 infected an estimated 50 million people worldwide, about 1/3 of the planet's population, and killed an estimated 20 million to 50 million victims, including some 675,000 Americans. The 1918 flu was first observed in Europe, the United States, and parts of Asia before swiftly spreading around the world. At the time, there were no effective drugs or vaccines to treat this killer flu strain. Citizens were ordered to wear masks, schools, theaters, and businesses were shuttered, and bodies piled up in makeshift morgues before the virus ended its deadly global march. Let's back to present day. After all these scary pandemics that I talked you about, we must learn the lesson. We are smarter, more organized now, and we must stay home. I will not talk for the details for the coronavirus because I think you already know about that. I will just tell you that 5,083 people have died and there have been more than 138,608 confirmed cases worldwide at this moment. Coronavirus, COVID-19, has reached the whole world, but instead of panic, caution is needed. To respect the recommendations to protect and prevent the spread of the COVID-19 virus, to be responsible, to protect ourselves and others, to regularly monitor the information of the competent institutions, not to create a fake news epidemic. I will just remind you to regularly wash your hands with soap and water and covering your mouth with your elbow when sneezing or coughing. Also, on a positive note, there are 70,725 people that recovered from the coronavirus. So, be brave and don't panic. Class dismissed. Thank you for sticking up until the end of the lessons. If you liked the video, hit that like button. If not, write in comment section down below. I feel ready for arguing there. Also feel free to put some suggestions. For more lessons, hit that subscribe button and also hit that icon bell. I can wait, no worries. Come on, hit it.